Hey, this is Jeff again, the Valhalla Ventures, ReiguideService.com, ReiguideService.com. Don't even know if I spelled that right. Anyway, today's video, I want to do a real quick talk about legal dead ends and how if you're going to be in business, you're going to have to deal with lawyers, you're going to have to deal with the law, you're going to have to deal with possibly lawsuits. There's a lot of different aspects to the law. One of the things that I would suggest is that you start trying to find an attorney that you can have a real conversation with. Attorneys are kind of a unique breed of people. And what I mean by that is that there's a bunch of different kinds. There's lawyers that went to law school that specialize in certain kinds of things like tax law or construction law or healthcare law. There's lots of different types of law, so there's lots of different types of specialties within law. And then there's other ones that are general practitioners of law. There's guys that basically say, I do everything, which is kind of like hiring a trade that does everything. You're not really getting the best. You're getting someone that just kind of is good. All right, enough. Now look, those people dressed up in a suit advertising for their business. And it seems kind of hot to do that today, but okay. So there's a lot of different things. One of the things here in Texas is a lot of people think that if you hire a contractor or a trade and then they don't finish the work and you sue them, then there's not a lot that can be done because it's a civil matter. And that's true. It is a civil matter. So if you hire a contractor and let's say, this needs to go up. Let's say that you hire a contractor or a trade and they come out and they do a day's worth of work, cause a mess, and then leave, don't finish the job, collected more than what they have earned. It's a civil matter. You can't call the police. But here's what you can do. Once you have a civil judgment and you've proven in civil court that, in fact, they do owe you the money. In Texas, we have a trust law, which means that once you prove in civil court that you are owed the money, then you can go back to your contractor and say, hey, contractor, I now have proof that you owe me this money, and we have a trust law in Texas, and the trust law states that you have to keep all of the money I give you in a trust until you have spent it on the job. And then, so for instance, if you give the person or this contractor $12,000, $10,000 is supposed to be there, or the job, $12,000 or $2,000 is overhead and profit. Every time they spend $100, they get to pay $20 to themselves, right? So if they get half the job done, they get the $5,000 they spent on getting the job done. They did $5,000 worth of work, then they get $1,000. That's basically how it works. Okay, so they have to hold all that money in trust, but you can't prove that they didn't until you take them to civil court. And once you went in civil court, now you have proof that they owed you the money. Now you have proof that that money should still be in trust. Because if you've gone to civil court and proven to the court that they owe you this money, then that means they never should have spent the money. It should have still been in that trust account. Now, if they don't pay you that money, then you have a criminal case, because that is a criminal law here in Texas. That's just one example of a ton of examples of things that you can do to make sure that you get done what needs to be done, justice. The issue with the law, and what most people get frustrated with and don't understand, is the drag. Okay, because everything drags. Everything takes a little bit longer than what you would want it to take when you're going through the justice system. It's set up by a bunch of lawyers. The reason that contracts are as long as they are and as detailed as they are is because it's giving them something to argue about. That's why when you send a contract over, their lawyer looks at it, makes changes to it. I don't like this wording. I want to change this. They're just trying to figure out better ways to make arguments in court later, where if the contracts are written in such a way that there is no argument later, this is exactly what it is. It's this. You're going to do this work with these materials. It's going to be done in this time frame. And all of those details are very specific. And there is no wording that can be, Latinized. That's what I call it when lawyers do things, because they all write up and talk in Latin. That's basically all lawyers are doing, is elongating, delaying, and Latin. That's what practicing law means for the most part. But there's a lot of good need for lawyers. There's a lot of good uses for having a lawyer. Having a good lawyer is actually kind of like a superpower in business, because there's so many bad lawyers that if you have a good one, then you're going to be in a better situation than most other businesses. So you can look at it like, all lawyers are trash, so I don't want to deal with them. Or you can look at it like, hey, most lawyers are trash, and so if I get one, I'm going to get a really good one. And so if you can figure out the bad parts of things, like, okay, the law sucks, sometimes getting justice doesn't really work the way that you'd want it to, okay, but you need to still take it upon yourself to understand that that's just a problem that you're trying to find a solution for. So whatever your issue is, whether you have a trade that walks off the job and takes money from you, or someone falls out of contract, having a good attorney is really nice, because your job should be to be an investor, or a restaurant owner, or a mechanic, or whatever your business is. Your business is doing that. It's not going out and doing collections. So like if you're a contractor and you're doing work and you have your next 6 months of work lined up, the job that gets done that doesn't pay you, when do you get the time to go collect all that money, to send all the demand letters, to go to court, to file, and all of these things take time. So if you want to be able to have your focus be your business, having a team, whether it's an attorney or a secretary that is doing the research and doing a lot of the stuff for you, pro se. And that's the thing, it really depends on also if you have an LLC. I have another video on that, and why having an LLC isn't necessarily necessary for most people. Or, a lot of people, I think, have some misconceptions about what an LLC does. You can't just use an LLC as an alias. I mean, that's not how it works. There's a lot of different things. Again, something great you should talk to a lawyer about. Do the research yourself. Make sure that you know what you're talking about. And here's what I think is important. You can spend a lot of years doing all of the research on all the legal stuff to handle it all yourself. You can do a lot of it. But if you have a good lawyer that can handle the time-consuming things that are really challenging and will answer some of your questions and give you right direction, that's going to save you a lot of time too. Having a lawyer doesn't necessarily mean every single solitary contract goes to them, but they can write you a contract that's really well done that you can just fill in the blanks. And then from that point forward, you have a lot of time savings, because you know that your contract is valid. You know that you have good arguments. You know that you've protected yourself, you've protected your client, your fellow employees, or trades, whatever. So having a good lawyer to sit down and talk with you is really important, and have someone that will be honest with you and tell you, hey, you're going to lose this case, and here's why. Hey, you could win this case, but collecting is going to be hard, and here's why. Having someone that's willing to not take money from you is just as important as someone that's willing to take money from you. Probably more important. So that's my advice about law. Already a long video, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it short. I have to get some auto parts for my truck, and so I'll be pulling in here. Be blessed, bless others. It's a beautiful weekend. A little overcast here, but that's nice. It's blocking out the sun so that we can stay nice and cool while doing yard work after I'm done doing truck work. That's what my weekend's going to look like. Be blessed, bless others. Leave Valhalla Ventures, ReidGuideService.com, ReiguideService.com. Later.